Sunshiny Saturday. I already thank the government for the sunshine, giving credit. So we're going to begin today with a pledge of allegiance to flag. So please join us. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. It's my pleasure right now to introduce a young lady that I used to sit across the aisle from in the Senate chamber, Congressman Miller Meeks. Welcome to Pella.
Amazing. So we actually did sit across from each other in the House chambers. Somehow everyone wants to get the back row. So that's the prime seats. And so someone forgot about this one seat in the back row, and I was like at the end to pick seats. But what he didn't tell you is that he was on the Republican side and I was on the Democrat side, which made it very challenging. But in front of me were Senator Knoyer and Senator Kelker, who are also here in District 1. And so I called us the Bermuda Triangle. So it is great to be here with you. I'm not going to tell you what's wrong with the country right now. You all know it. You all know what's wrong with the country. You know that we have an open southern border. And it's not just 7 million people coming across illegally, which they consider them legal because they're processed, but they're given a slip of paper that says to come back for an asylum hearing years in the future, of which in the past, only 10% would ever come back for the asylum hearing, and of that 10%, only 1% of that 10%, or 10% of that 10% would meet the definition of asylum. I'm not going to talk to you about the fentanyl that's flowing across our borders and the 100,000 overdose deaths recorded in the United States, or the people on the terror watch list. I'm not going to talk to you about our president, who just made a deal with Xi Jinping to really basically turn over part of our economy to the Chinese Communist Party. And I'm sure Xi Jinping is salivating at the idea that we're not going to have domestic energy production in the United States because we're going to do wind and solar. And I've got no beef with wind and solar. It's just I like all the rest of it too. And what's most important is that we have affordable, available, reliable, we can compete economically around the world. And we can't do that. I'm not going to talk to you about the economy. Anybody in here think Bidenomics is working?
No.
Yeah. So when they're wondering why there's a disconnect, why with all these huge achievements in Bidenomics, why don't people agree that the economy is doing well? And this is Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. Because unlike the president, you have to go to the gas pump. I have to go to the gas pump. I have to go to the grocery store. You have to go to the grocery store. We know that if you're working, your wages haven't kept up with inflation. And they like to tout that inflation is down. Well, inflation may be down, but what's not down? Prices. What's not down? Interest rates. So that's a burden and a struggle to each of us. And people are suffering. And they're hurt. And they're losing faith. And they're losing hope that their government has the leaders that can help them out of this mess and out of these crises. And I'm going to say, I'm embarrassed to say that we in Congress haven't shown them that leadership. If anybody's been watching what's happening in crisis. And let me say, what in Congress, it is great to be in Iowa and out of D.C. because real leadership happens in Iowa. So I think what you're going to hear is that a President DeSantis would not turn over energy to Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party, would not keep a border open and let anybody and anything and turn over operational control of the border to the cartels, would be putting forth pro-growth economic policies where all of us succeed. All of us succeed. So we've got an important job to do in Iowa, and we do it better than any place else in the country. And that is, we show up, we listen, we pay attention, we ask questions. We're going to come out on January 15th, and there will probably be snow, and it will probably be below zero, and we're going to come out, and we're going to show up, and we're going to be voting for the next president of the United States, which is going to be a Republican in January of 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman Miller-Meeks. The DeSantis family is here in complete today. We have Mama and we have the kids along with the governor. So it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the very classy First Lady of Florida, Casey DeSantis.
Back on a trajectory to greatness, because we believe that it all starts here in Iowa. That you guys are going to set the tone for the entire nation, and it's an honor and it's a privilege to be able to come out here to make the case for my better half, Ron DeSantis. I have to tell you, though, it's a little nice to be talking to somebody older than the age of 5. So I started the morning very early at about 5:30 with a 6'5" and a 3-year-old and an all-you-can-eat breakfast at a hotel. And so when you're constantly making waffles that you can put whipped cream on and sprinkles and chocolate chips, and then you get kids in an enclosed space, it's a little crazy. So it's nice talking to adults. It's like you feel like you're the hamster on the wheel a lot of times, making the case over and over. And then adding a little bit of insult to injury, although I love Casey's because I never had breakfast pizza until I came to Iowa, and now I'm right. So it's one of the greatest things. And I like the name Casey's too. A little partial. Okay. So anyway, we just went to Casey's, and the kids look at the candy aisle, and they are like, "What is this?" And so Ron and I, literally about 10 minutes ago, were walking through, probably saying just one. No more than 20 times, right? Just one. Pick just one. So anyway, so now they're super upped up on sugar. So we'll bring them in a minute, and then you guys can see all the chaos and action in closed areas. But it is an honor and it's a privilege to be here, and I don't have to tell you this. I think that this is one of the most, if not the most, consequential election of our lifetime. And I believe that too for this primary. And I don't believe anybody in an ivory tower up in Washington, D.C. or New York City is going to tell who you should be voting for. It is up to you to make your decision to decide who you want as President of the United States. And I've had the privilege to travel all around this great state. We're almost to 99, not quite, 93 counties. And I've watched as people have been taking literal legal pads and writing out every meticulous detail about all of the candidates and making their case as to why they think they would be the best commander-in-chief. And you owe that to the voters to show up and to make your case. No one is anointed to this. No one's given this. You have to come out and you make your argument, and then the people, they elect who they believe would be the best person for president. And so there's a lot of things I can tell you about the better half. I can tell you about how he's a good dad, a 6'5" and a 3-year-old, and how sometimes, even though he comes home late at night and he brings in like brownies and ho-hos and whatnot, and he gives them to the kids. We go back to that sugar thing again at 8 o'clock at night. You know, he's a really good dad. And the thing of it is we want to hand off this country better to our children than the one that we inherited. Yes, ma'am. We understand that that's all on the line, especially when you look at the indoctrination that's happening in the schools. You look at this border that's wide open and people pouring across. You look at how hard people are working and cannot get ahead. It is not fair when you look to Washington, D.C., 6 of the richest counties or suburbs of Washington, and are they doing anything great up there? No, it's a lot of hot air, but yet the American people are the ones who are working their tails off.